So the first time I came to New Zealand was in the final days of 2018. I had just quit my full-time desk job and was jumping into the deep end of being a full-time creative, which was really exciting but terrifying at the same time. And honestly, nothing really went as planned that first time around. The reality of my jobless situation hit me pretty hard, and the pressures of social media culture and the influencer space took a really big mental toll on me, and it was tough. But setting that aside, the one thing that was everything I wanted it to be and more was New Zealand. This land of glaciated mountaintops, fjords, epic coastlines, and wonderful people was simply incredible, and I just wanted to keep coming back for more. Fast forward to 2020, and I was back on the South Island again for summer, and it was some of the absolute best days of my life. Just incredible adventures, amazing people and weather, and I just never wanted it to end. And then March of 2020 happened, and we all know how that goes. The world shut down, and New Zealand went into a full-fledged lockdown. So we quickly scrambled and moved into a house in Queenstown, where we were in a lockdown for 6 weeks, meaning we couldn't leave the house, we couldn't interact with anyone outside our bubbles. The only businesses that were open were grocery stores, petrol stations, and pharmacies, meaning you couldn't get takeouts. It may sound crazy, but that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. I had a roof over my head, mountains in my backyard, and my roommates quickly became my family. While we were all thousands of miles away from everything we knew and loved during this really, really scary time in human history, we had each other, and that was enough. I was eventually able to leave Queenstown after 4 unexpected months of accidentally living in New Zealand, and the second I got back to Seattle, all I could really think about was New Zealand. But the world was shut, and New Zealand was one of the last countries in the world to open its doors post-COVID. It really wasn't until May of this year, May of 2022, that tourists were allowed back in New Zealand, and you better believe I was on one of the first flights out. And being back on the South Island was like falling in love all over again. Just to be back in the Southern Alps and Milford Sound and Mount Cook with my friends was just spectacular. And this thought crept into my head just over and over again throughout my trip that I needed to live in New Zealand. So after a short few weeks on the South Island, I went back to Seattle, and my partner Maria and I decided to apply for the working holiday visa. It was my last year of eligibility as an American to get the visa, which was pretty nerve-wracking because it was like a now or never type scenario. Also, Maria and I had both built entire lives in Seattle that we really loved and enjoyed, so it was hard to think about leaving everything we knew. But that said, in late July of this year, only about a week after applying for our visas, we were approved, and yeah, the mental chaos ensued. Like we just like kept thinking to ourselves, was this really happening? Was this something we were gonna do? It was very, very stressful trying to decide whether to uproot our lives and trade, one great thing for another. Like we just didn't know if it was gonna work. But slowly and surely, we packed our bags, said goodbyes to our friends and family, and had our last trips in the Cascades and Mount Rainier. And just a short few weeks ago, we boarded a flight, a really early morning flight out of Seattle to Auckland, and here we are. This is our house in Wanaka, and we live here, which is absolutely crazy to say. It's like truly a dream come true. This has to be one of the most beautiful towns in the entire world. We have the lake and the mountains right out our front door there. There's so much to do within just a short drive of our house, and like we've already built this small little community of people here that we just have come to really love and enjoy. And this is just the beginning. Our plan right now is to only stay for the terms of our visa, which is a year, but really anything can happen. And the local saying in Wanaka kind of goes that you come for a little bit and you stay forever. And honestly, at this point, that's not such a bad thought.